Coach Willie Fritz back here on Kicking It with Kunkel. I'm glad I didn't scare you away last time. Let's just jump right into this overarching big picture. I'll ask you what I asked Joe Espada after his year. What did you think of your season? I know probably not the wins you wanted, but you come into a sticky situation.
Well, the big difference taking over this program, this is I did it with a JUCO, a Division II, a 1AA, a group of five, another group of five. And, so this is the sixth time I've come into a program that's been down a little bit. But the big difference was the NIL piece and also the portal piece, the transfer portal piece. So that made this a completely different job to take over. And I had to learn some things. I was talking to someone this morning about how, there used to not be a whole lot of similarities between the NFL game and the college game. Now there's a lot of similarities with roster management and that goes with salary or whatever you'd like to call it with student athletes. So there is a lot of difference, but there's also a lot of similarities. So that was what made this past season challenging for me, is just learning that aspect of the game.
What did you like about your team? And we'll get to the offense in here in a second, but what did you like about what you were able to do this year?
Well, they when you come in, they didn't pick me. Some other people picked me to come in, and I had very, very, very few issues with the guys. So I'm proud of that. In this day and age, you hear about a lot of things that happen around college athletics, and I'm proud of the fact that our guys competed week in and week out and represented our city and university the way they're supposed to represent a city and university. And then I thought our guys fought throughout the season. They played hard from the beginning of the season till the end of the season, and that's also with 63 new guys that we had.
Wild.
Over half our roster was brand new guys and coming into the program. So we're going to have a lot more continuity this season, which I'm looking forward to.
So offensively, it was a struggle to kind of get that thing going. What kind of led to that, and what do you need to tweak?
Oh, there's a lot of things we need to tweak. We need to do a better job coaching, specifically head coaching, and then the assistants need to do a great job, and we need to also improve our roster. Not just on the offensive side of the ball, but throughout the whole roster. And we feel like we did that. We addressed some areas that we weren't as good at as we needed to be. Offensive line, we need to improve at quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receivers, and I think we did a good job of that. And the guys that played for us last year, we got to get them better. We got to do a good job of developing them and getting them to be better. And that's something that I think I've done a good job in my career. We're a technique fundamental team, and you can only be as good as you tackle and you block. And we got to get better at those two areas.
It's a simple game, isn't it?
Well, it's not as simple as it used to be. It's really a complex game now, but it still comes back to, I watch, a lot of tape. I was watching a lot of tape this morning of some guys, and you're just watching how guys, the fundamentals of tackling and blocking and playing hard. That's not taught as much as it needs to be taught. It's taken for granted that guys are going to play hard. You got to coach that in everything that you do, the off-season program, during the season, game day, et cetera. So there's a lot of room for improvement for us.
Now, if you're coaching that for too long, obviously it gets in the way of, coaching what you want to do schematically. If you're coaching effort and hard work, how do you set that standard in the offseason?
That's the number one thing. You got to, and we talk about, we're going to touch all lines, we're going to run past all lines, we're going to start behind all lines. That we want to be disciplined in the off-season program, whether it's lifting weights, running, movement, whatever we're doing. And that's one of the advantages I have is, I was a strength coach for 15 years. Also, I had to do a lot of jobs that maybe most head coaches at this level have not done before. So we want to have attention to detail in every aspect of what we do in the program for our guys. And it starts with the off-season program, really does, and then you get into the season as well.
You guys made a nice splash in the portal, getting a quarterback with Connor out of Texas A&M, local kid. Always fun to have a local kid come home to play for his hometown team. What does that do for your team, obviously, on the field, but what does it do off the field when it comes to recruiting? Do recruits notice something like that?
Yeah, I think they do. And he, obviously 5-star guy. He's the player of the year in the city of Texas with the Houston Touchdown Club. And, so a lot of kids know who he is and what he's accomplished. And they see him coming to our program. It makes it a little bit more attractive. But I think the main thing that's helped us at the University of Houston get these 4- and 5-star guys is the fact that we're playing in a Power 4 conference. That was the one thing that the University of Houston was lacking, and they played in a great league, but now we're playing in a Power 4 league, and I think that's going to keep more kids around the city of Houston.
You mentioned that Power 4 league. Kelvin has talked about this several times about Houston is a Big 12 school, but they're not a Big 12 athletic program in the way they are funded and the way they operate. That's what he says. What hurdles do you see, or what are you trying to do to kind of get the football team going with the University of Houston?
Well, we need to win.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple. I just went and watched Kelvin and his crew play the other day. Who'd they play the other day, Andrew?
They beat who did they just beat?
They whipped West Virginia.
Yeah, we had.
I was at the game
how about
of
that
West
defense,
Virginia.
Man?
Well, they're
culture.
They're filling it up, and the difference is,
They beat UCF too. That was the last one.
UCF on Saturday. I watched the end of the game. He may not have played as well as what they wanted to, but they played well when they needed to. And that's a sign of a well-coached, tough-minded team. The difference is we're taking over a program in the era of NIL and in the era of the transfer portal. That's different. It's different for me. It's different for anybody who's taking over a program right now. So we just need to keep getting the Houston kids coming and keep building this program, not just on the football field, but everything that is involved with the football program. And whether it's facilities, which we've, I'm sure you're going to touch on
coming on
here in a little bit. You were over there the other day, and we kind of had opened it up for the media to see all the new facilities. We're going to have as good of facilities as anybody in the nation. And it's going to be, football only facilities, which is going to be outstanding. But you also got to do a good job with fundraising, budget. Those are all things that our administration, both in the athletic department and our university administration, is fully aware of.
Why is it so important to have football only? Because I know it's big. I mean, I played college baseball at a very low level, and it was like we were always fighting with gym time and trying to get into the gym and work out as a team. When you have football, you have like 100 kids on the dang team. For baseball, we had like 20. Why is it so important for you guys to have that?
Well, just what you said, being able to have access at all times, and also it's something that you can show the recruits. You show your current players, hey, we're serious about this. We want to win, and we want to win big, and we were probably behind, the majority of the teams in the Big 12, if not all the teams in the Big 12. Now we're at the top of the heap. So, it's very, very important to have great facilities and space. I'm an old school guy. We still want to, we're talking about the student athlete here, not just the athlete. And we're able to also combine these facilities with an unbelievable academic center and be able to work with our guys academically where they also work with football.
I always get a kick out of people when they go to a head coach, like, how's the off season going? Like, as if there's a whole bunch of downtime in the off season. What's your off season like? Because now with recruiting, obviously, I assume you're in full blast mode right now.
Yeah, we're recruiting. We're going all over the place. It was kind of funny. I went to the Peach Bowl, as I said a little while ago, and they said, well, coach is the only current active coach that's here. It's because we weren't playing any darn bowl game. I hope I never have the opportunity to go to a game around that time. So, this is there's a lot of things to do, that you can, help yourself improve. And that's why I got into it. I love the game, love the sport. I love being a positive influence on student athletes. And part of this is recruiting. You got to be involved in recruiting all the time. It's 24/7, and and that's something that we're all wanting to get better at every single year. Before we'd done a great job at some previous schools, maybe getting guys that were 1 and 2 star guys and turning them into 4 and 5 star guys. You know, we want to get those 4 and 5 star guys and, you know, help those guys develop into all pro, all American type guys.
When you're watching the playoffs, I assume, are you watching the playoffs when they're on?
Yeah, this is the kind of the only time I get an opportunity to watch, and I'm a fan when I'm watching. But there's some things I see that are interesting that, you know, might help us out a little bit. You know, you know, something that I looked at the other day. I think it was Baltimore. You know, everybody's doing the tush push, right? And we were good at that in my previous institution. We weren't as good at it last season as we needed to be. I thought it was interesting that they actually had Mark Andrews, a big tight end.
Yeah.
That was the guy that was being the quarterback. And, you know, you see the success that Josh Allen has with Buffalo. He's a big fella as well. So that's something we're going to dive into, because if you can convert on 4th down, it's a big deal. You know, I see a bunch of these defensive guys when they get a stop on 3rd down, they all start doing this. You know, this 4th down, that's meaningless, because they're going to go for it on 4th down quite a bit. I need to have some other kind of signal, I guess, for it. But, you know, moving the chains and seeing how people are operating on 4th and short is really interesting.
There's a lot of schools this year that were relevant that were never relevant in college football, like Arizona State. Boise State's always kind of been around, and they were back this year. What do you notice about how teams are building their programs, and to be able to do that, and how much does the transfer portal and NIL all play a factor in all that?
Yeah, you know, I don't know the exact numbers with Arizona State, but, you know, that's how they did it, to go from 3 and 9. You know, they picked up a decent little running back.
Boy, is he fun to watch.
He's tough, isn't he? Great quarterback. I think, you know, almost every starter or backup is a transfer portal guy for them. You know, and that's important to get going right now. Now, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we're in the epicenter of football in the world, Houston, Texas. We want to develop our program with high school guys, and we're going to be able to do that. And that part of, you know, what I've done in the past is really do a good job of working on fundamentals and techniques with guys. So we want to build it with high school guys, but you got to supplement your roster with portal guys, and we're certainly going to use that to our advantage as well.
I know winning's not easy, but is it easier to win quicker with the new rules and the way you can do things?
I think it is. Before, you know, I don't mean this badly, but they were stuck with you and you were stuck with them.
Yeah.
You know, when you came into a new program, and then, you know, it took a little bit to recruit and develop guys and change your roster. And, you know, most of the time when a new guy comes in, it's because things weren't going real good. So, yeah, with this, you know, with the advent of the transfer portal, you know, you can get things, you know, turned around a little bit quicker. And that's what we're wanting to do this next season.
What kind of conversations, without maybe telling me who it is or what recruit it is, have you had like some crazy conversations with this NIL? You hear all this stuff on social media. Have you had like a wild conversation where kids like, I want $8 million in a Lambo?
There's a lot of conversations that you have. Sometimes, you know, a lot of things you hear in the media is not true.
Damn media.
You know, I wasn't saying that.
The worst.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
You start hearing it on social media and not really to your level, but, you know, about this guy's getting this, that, and the other thing, and in reality he's not getting this, that, or the other thing. So you got to take all of that with a grain of salt. You know, and I think most people realize that. Sometimes you got to explain that to parents and prospects and some other coaches that they might have off on the side, and then the other part that's different now is agents. You know, and you know, you get a lot of these kids have got representation, and some of it's probably good, and some of it's probably not so good, because they're taking a large chunk of whatever they're getting back home with them. You know, so you've got to deal with a lot of different people, and, you know, the best thing to do is just be open and honest and with your guys, and then also something that I do that some people want to listen to and some people don't want to listen to is talk to them about academics and how a degree from
that's still a thing.
Yeah, it is for me. You know, how a degree from the University of Houston can help you. We're a Tier 1 academic institution, and There's some majors that we have here that are absolutely incredible, and we talk about how we're able to help our guys, with internships and job shadowing opportunities that you can't do at other places because they're in small towns. We've got over 200,000 alums in the greater Houston area, so that helps us in those areas as well. So I keep pushing that also, because that's going to become important when they get done playing ball. They're gonna work the rest of their life. Every guy that I've had guys that have been successful in many different facets of life, and especially my guys that have played in the NFL. They didn't just rest on their money or their laurels. They did something that they wanted to do the rest of their life that they had a passion for.
I mean, shoot, only 1% of college athletes go on to the next level.
It's hard. It's really difficult, and everybody keeps thinking that's what the thing that with NIL and the rev share, things like that. It can give guys just a little something when they finish school, to give them an advantage over other people. I tell a story about a kid that played for me, Darnell Mooney, who's a great receiver for the Atlanta Falcons.
Very good.
And when he graduated in 3.5 years with a degree in business, he had $52,000 in the bank. This was before NIL, so he had a nice little nest egg going. And guys can do that if they want to, and they've got good people that are in their camp.
When you go out and recruit, Kelvin also talked about this, and I've referenced him a lot because I always learn so much when I hear him talk.
Yeah. When
I had him on the show, he said to me, "Don't ever conflate recruiting with evaluation. Evaluate and then recruit. When you evaluate, what are you looking for outside of a good player? As a human being, what do you look for?"
Well, there's two components to being a great recruiter. First of all, you got to be a talent evaluator, like Kelvin was talking about right there. Some guys can do that, some guys can't. Then the other part is you've got to be a fantastic information gatherer. You got to talk to former coaches, summer coaches, parents, friends. When I go into schools, I talk to the custodians, I talk to the counselors, I talk to the assistant coaches, because when you get this guy into your program, you want someone that's going to help build the program up, not wear it out. And I think sometimes, you see in the NFL all the time, they take a chance on a guy that had all sorts of problems in college or all sorts of problems with his other pro team, and then they expect him to be a model citizen all of a sudden. So you got to do a lot of work on the front end so that you gather this information and make sure it's a guy that's going to get a degree, he's going to work hard, he's going to be a great teammate, he can learn, because we talked about it before, the game's become complicated and you need smart guys to play for you. So those are the two parts of recruiting that are so important, and you got to make sure that your coaches understand how to do that.
How has the game changed? You've been coaching for a long time now. How has it changed? Because, I've always maintained that you win games from front to back, inside to out, in the trenches to start. But how has it changed that you've seen the most?
Well, it's 24/7, and the kids are doing it year round. In the past, they played during football season. The vast majority of kids played basketball. Then they ran track or played baseball, and then in the summer they were working the jobs. Heaven forbid, right?
I love landscaping. I did landscaping construction, and then I always tell kids, don't specialize too early. You want to play every sport because it makes you a better all-around athlete to when you do specialize.
Yeah, but now we're getting a lot of specialization. I like recruiting guys that are 2-sport, 3-sport athletes, but it's not as common as it used to be. But a lot of guys are doing football year-round, or they do track to sprint so they get faster for football. Is the other part, but so that part is a lot different, and you want to find guys, that love the game, and understand it, and because you're talking about being complicated. I just 20 years ago when I first became a head coach, I've been doing it now. It's been my 33rd year as a head football coach. You call an offense, defense, and kicking game. Hey, if I'm not in every meeting, they've moved on and they're doing some things differently. And then, because of the internet, you can pull up any game you want to.
Yeah.
There's a deal called Pro Football Focus that I was on this morning for probably 2 or 3 hours, looking at our current guys, how they did last year. We already used that to, look at the guys that we were recruiting. And then you got this huddle. You can look at every high school kid, HUDL huddle, that you can look at any high school kid that you're looking at from Maine to California. Now, we're fortunate that we get to recruit locally. So there's a lot of information out there that you can process to see if a guy's good enough to play for you. But the information gathering and finding out about the kid as a person has never been so important as it is now.
I'm sure I know the answer to this, but like you've recruited all over the country and you've recruited in some good areas, but like to be able to live in Houston, Texas, that's got to be a leg up on everybody else.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's just my defensive coordinator, Austin Armstrong, he just came from the University of Florida. He's coached at Alabama. He's coached at Georgia, coached at in the state of Louisiana a bunch. He's been all over the place. D coordinator at Southern Miss. He went out this last week, and he'd never really recruited extensively in the state of Texas, and he was just shocked about how different it was.
Yeah.
You sit in there with the organization, the structure, with the coaches, how they do things, the facilities that they have, and then also the way that the student athletes conduct themselves. I always tell kids, it seems like after, you pass the test with me in about 15 minutes when I'm talking to you. If you can hold a conversation, you're making eye contact with me the whole time, and how you behave with your coaches. I want to see how you interact with your coaches. And Austin just said, man, this is totally different. I see what they're talking about in the state of Texas and how different it is. So it's a huge advantage for us.
Have you made any changes within the program on how it's structured or like a new position or anything? Because you see a lot of things happening across the landscape these days. Have you done anything that may not have gotten the attention?
No, not too much. I'm kind of a little bit more of a general manager than I used to be in the past with all the things that I'm doing, with NIL and the portal and all those other kind of. I'm just really fortunate that I got a great staff, a great recruiting staff. Wes Fritz does he's got to sign off on a kid before we take a kid, and then I got to sign off on him, and then we hope the position coach does as well. But we've kind of got our own recruiting department, and all those guys, all the gals and the guys in that department do an excellent job evaluating, and then also on the visit itself with making sure that we put our best foot forward. So we've got a great staff, and it starts with that staff in order to get in the great student athletes.
What are your thoughts on Belichick going to the college game?
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Probably a little more similarities than what there would have been 3 or 4 years ago for him. But Coach Belichick does a fantastic job, and I'm sure it'll be a learning curve for him as well. On the road recruiting like he's going to be
different
doing
life
all the time. So it'll be neat to see how similar he thinks it is and how different he thinks it is as well.
I'm curious your take that if it's bled a little bit into the college game, but the sliding rule in the NFL and how these quarterbacks are sliding so late. Your take as someone that's been around football his whole life of what the NFL needs to change, or if it needs to change. What's your take on that?
You're looking at just watching a little bit of football here the last couple of days. You saw some NFL quarterbacks taking some people on.
CJ lowered his shoulder at one point.
Yeah, I saw him do that over there.
Love it.
On the sideline as well, and that's a surprise though for the defense.
Definitely that.
You got to be, you got to proceed with caution when you're going after a quarterback. Now he's trying to run you over.
I wish they would.
It's just different. I know there were some different things. I actually got to go to a couple of the Texans games here at the end of the season, but it's just they're trying to be so careful, with a defenseless player now, and they're going to make mistakes, plain and simple with the calls that they make. You saw one in Arizona State Texas game.
Yeah,
I was sitting there and I saw it on the big screen myself. So it's just it's a tough rule to enforce and be correct on all the time, especially when sometimes the quarterback's aggressive and sometimes he's not.
And not only that, but they're leaving themselves vulnerable. Like when they slide, they're kind of keeping their head up and they're sliding late. And you're asking the predator to protect his prey, which is insane to ask the linebacker to protect the quarterback.
I've never heard anybody say it that way, but that's a good way to say it.
I mean, it doesn't work, and it's silly to me. And the league needs to say once the quarterback's out of the pocket, they're treated as a runner, because I think it's safer that way.
Well, there is, but you start getting some of these great quarterbacks injured. You know, you're because now that we're being very, very careful, which we should be, with concussion protocol and all those other kind of things. That you get some of the, you're talking NFL game right now. Some of the stars of the game, they start getting hurt, and now everything's a lot different now. So. It just there's going to be inconsistency with it. There just is, and we had a couple calls this season that would have changed our year a little bit. With they didn't have the proper replay angle, and then you're trying to get the game to keep moving at a good pace. You don't want them to sit over there and watch it for 5 minutes. Yeah, it's something that I think they'll get better and better at, but it's a difficult call to make in certain situations.
Is there a rule that you would change in college football if you could change one thing?
I just, the one thing, faking injuries.
Yeah, I think that drives me insane.
I just
Brazilian soccer.
I used to be on the rules committee, and I may be back on it here in a little bit. I'll find out here in the next couple of weeks, but. That's one that, it just is, I just, some people are doing it on purpose, and it's easy to tell that they're doing it on purpose. And, that's just, and you're not going to change some people's character, I guess, that they would do something like that. But, we need to get that under control. I don't see it in the pro game. They don't go with the tempo that a lot of people do in the college game, but in my opinion, if you have to stop a game to get a guy out of the game, he needs to stay out the rest of that quarter. Plain and simple, and then come back in, and then if you think it was worth it to do it, then you do it, I guess. But that's one rule that really I don't like seeing.
I love that. All right, finally on you guys. We going to a bowl game next year?
Yeah,
hell yeah.
That's the plan.
Because I want to travel. Can we go? I know it may not be the most prestigious. Can we go to the Bahamas Bowl? Just personally, selfishly.
I've been fortunate to go to some bowl games, and I've yet to be to a bad one. They really do a good job of taking care of the student athletes, the coaches, the fans. It's a great experience, and we want that to be something we do year after year after year.
How important are the bowl games for?
Well, that's another thing that I just came back from the NCAA, the AFCA convention, and we had a big head coaches meeting, and one of the things we talked about was changing the dates of the transfer portal. We've had it early in December, and unfortunately, some kids have decided to opt out of the game, and now we're moving it into January, where it shouldn't affect the bowl games.
Nice.
Because these, I hope it doesn't. But then we're also going to not have one in the April part. We had one, the NFL has got unrestricted free agency every 4 years. We've got it twice a year in college football. So that's something that I hope that we change, and I think that'll improve the integrity of the bowl games as well. And you'll have full teams competing and playing in those games like what they were invented for.
Have you had to have conversations with your kids about gambling?
A bunch.
Yeah, how do you approach it? Because it's ingrained in the game now, and leagues are leaning into it.
I talk to our kids about it, 2 or 3 times a year because, again, you watch these college games and you see a bunch of point spreads, and, over-unders, and I've had people explain to me what all that stuff means, and then you really see it big time in the pro game. So that's something that we talk about all the time with our student athletes because it's just so prevalent to see it on TV.
How do you approach it? Like, what is the conversation? Like, stay the hell away from it and
Damn
don't even
right.
think about it. Like, don't
Excuse
download
my language.
those.
Just stay as far away from it as
that's
you
gotta be
possibly
terrifying
can. Because
it's so popular too.
And it's and I think at some point in time, and I think some conferences are doing this already, where they're having to talk about an injury report. And that's going to be another thing that I think is going to be standard procedure with college teams.
You think that'll start this year?
I know some conferences are doing it now, and I think it's going to probably be conference by conference, given an injury report just like you do in the NFL. But, it's hard to, I've seen guys that looked like there was no way they could play on a Sunday, and then they're playing on Saturday. So you just don't know sometimes. But, I think that's the next step in college athletics.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on
Thank
the show
you.
again.
Appreciate it,
I'm
Will.
excited for you guys this year.
Thank you.
It's going to be fun to watch you guys, and I'm excited to get down to the Bahamas.
You bet. Go Cougs.
Appreciate it.